right, everyone, here we are. As promised, we're getting into groove metal this week.
Groovy.
So some of you may be out there wondering, what the hell is groove metal?
What is groove? It began in the early 90s. All the research I've been doing lately with bands like White Zombie, especially Sepultura at certain times, Machine Head, even Pantera, depending on how you look at it. It's a mix of like heavy metal and thrash, though it's usually a little bit slower than thrash with down-tuned guitars. Generally has more of a bounce to it, and that's what kind of makes it groove. Today we're going to start with one of those pioneers that I just mentioned, White Zombie, with Le Sexorcisto. Oh, no, it's actually Le Sexorcisto, Devil Music Volume 1. We never got Volume 2, but this was the third full-length album from White Zombie. It was released March 30th, 1992, and I'll probably butcher some of the names coming up here. So the lineup for this one is Robert Zombie on vocals, Jay Younger on guitars, Sean, how do you say Sean's last name? Isolt on bass. And this is the last album with Ivan DePrume on drums. It's 14 songs, 57 and a half minutes. Starts with Welcome to Planet Motherfucker, or Psychoholic Slag. Opens with a scratch, kind of old movie noises playing, leading into the heavy groove-influenced riff, and Zombie coming right out of it with his signature scat vocal through the verses. There's voice samples that are mixed throughout the entire track. This is a classic, but it does seem to drag on a little bit when I listened to it on this review.
That was the first thing I noticed was it takes a little longer to get started, first of all, than I'd really prefer. You know how I am with kind of some of the longer intros.
I love the long intros.
But I was pretty quick to forgive it once it kicks in, because it is a beast of a song. Yeah, maybe it suffers from being a hair too long, but if you've heard the albums that predate this one, then you immediately recognize the growth of the band.
Mm-hmm.
And I, for one, very much prefer this style to the albums before this one.
You have a big jump in production here. It's a lot meatier sound.
Definitely.
Thunder Kiss 65 is the third track on the album. It is the most popular White Zombie song in the entire catalog. They come right at you with that signature riff that absolutely everybody knows. The verses get your head bobbing like any good groove song should, and the chorus is kind of anthemic.
Yes, and something I think worth kind of pointing out. This is one of the biggest metal songs out there, like period.
Not just White Zombie, but just in general, yeah.
When you look at it, it's very, very simple, much like one of the other biggest metal songs out there, which is Walk.
Yeah.
And, it's just pretty interesting to think about, because there's plenty of bands that can straight up shred on the guitar, and they can do all this crazy, intricate, technical stuff. It doesn't necessarily make them good songwriters.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what this is. This is a good, well-written song. It doesn't have to be anything like crazy. Some of the best songs out there they're not complicated. They're not technical.
Sometimes there's a difference between being a good songwriter and a good musician.
Yeah.
You hear that? They don't always go hand in hand.
You hear that, Buckethead?
Yeah. You can play your guitar like nobody's business, but I'm not turning to your albums.
And not that he wants to, but I don't think Buckethead, if you challenged him, I don't think he could write a hit song.
No.
It's just not for everybody. And it's not bad. Like, I'm not saying one thing's better than the other. I'm just saying super simple song and super powerful. And it makes me want to play Guitar Hero now every time I hear it.
We spent many hours playing Guitar Hero and Thunder Kiss. Black Sunshine follows Thunder Kiss. What a follow-up. This is my favorite track on the album. The driving bass line and intense guitar work pull you right in from the start and keep that feeling throughout. It just makes you want to get in your car and drive fast. The song feels like something out of Mad Max or some dystopian world. Iggy Pop does guest vocals on this track. It's a great one.
Yeah, this is definitely one of the most fun songs on this album. It's kind of got a little bit of like a Ministry vibe to it.
A little bit.
Not so much. I think it's the samples stuff and kind of the quirkiness of it that remind me of Ministry, because it definitely doesn't have like the super clean industrial guitar. It's kind of opposite of that. It's kind of loose and fun, but there's just something about it that made me think of Ministry when I heard it.
It's a great track. Soul Crusher was the name of their debut album, but there wasn't a song called Soul Crusher on that album, but we get it here. The guitar work in this feels like early Metallica to me. It's very strange, but I do like Soul Crusher. Spider Baby, Yeah, Yeah, Yeah is another good track. It's an eerie and ominous track with Zombie's vocals getting layered and sounding a bit like cult chanting at times. The guitar work gets menacing on the back half of this one.
Yeah, and I think this one is one that really exemplifies groove. Like if you're looking for like what does groove sound like, listen
Spider
to the
Baby.
main riff in this one. And then I wonder because I haven't listened to the older stuff enough to know like was this the birth of the yeah 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 being a regular staple in Rob Zombie's music?
I've listened to Soul Crusher and Make Them Die Slowly, which are the albums before this, a couple of times each, maybe. Not enough to have any real opinion of them.
Yeah,
Tell you that. So,
they're not anything that stands out.
no,
They're not bad, but
they are what they are.
yeah.
I Am Legend, another good song. There's a really long acoustic build into the pounding drums. Again, reminds me of early Metallica. And there's something I never really noticed until this listen to this album is the similarities there. Zombie goes right back into the signature sample-infused groove sound after that. But I just did find that interesting. There's a solid solo on the back end of the track of I Am Legend.
It is interesting, I think, because, we were like on the front lines of this stuff when it was going on. So in hindsight, it's much easier to look back and see that pretty much everybody that was making metal in the early 90s was heavily influenced by Metallica, and you could hear it everywhere. But yeah, this is a much more experimental song, I think. They still haven't kind of shaken off all of the weirdness.
Not yet.
This one kind of drones on a little bit for me, to be honest. A couple other songs that stood out to me. One was Thrust. I definitely think it's one of the best songs on the album. It's super sleazy, and there's a little bit of funk infused to it. So obviously that speaks to me because I love the funk.
Funky.
And then Grindhouse. So
Go-Go.
the main reason I wanted to mention this one, when you really dig into his lyrics, man, they're just fucking completely bonkers.
He's just goofy. He's not saying anything really important.
Listen to this shit. Scrimshaw, motherfucker, bazooka, 5-star cat a howling. Kitten got a whip, but no escape to bait the prowlings. What the fuck, man? Like, this guy was clearly on a lot of drugs when he wrote this.
What were you saying, Robert?
Oh, boy. He says it so fast, you don't know, though.
Yeah,
It's
no
It's
idea.
kind of like some rap songs where they just throw some weird shit in there.
The closer on the album is Warp Asylum. There's a huge doom and gloom feel to this track. There's a very heavy weight to it all. Not a whole lot of groove to be found, and it's very long, coming in almost 7 minutes. The last minute of guitar work picked up, so the album doesn't close completely lifeless, but I'm not sure if I really liked it as a closer.
Yeah, man, he really gave us the Melvins intro on this one.
Shit.
Come on, Robert. You cannot be hitting us with the fucking duct tape banana over here.
Have we just renamed it?
For real, though, this song's fine, I think. It's got a big stoner doom vibe to it, which you referenced. It's mixed with some groovy riffs here and there, but it kind of drones on, I think, for the final song.
What do you think of the album as a whole?
Yeah, so overall, it is a big step forward for White Zombie, but to me, they still were a long way from what they would eventually become.
Yeah.
They got off to a weird start with the first 2 albums. They peaked with Astro Creep, and then it's kind of been a roller coaster ever since with the Rob Zombie stuff. But this album kind of finds itself right in the middle of all that, sort of a transition phase. There's a whole lot to like here. There's a few throwaway tracks, and a few that are just kind of there. White Zombie's Le Sexorcisto, Le Sexorcisto, is a 4 out of 6 upside down pentagrams.
Yeah, it is a big step into the zombie sound that would become his signature, filled with groove, horror samples, and sleaze. It's not as put together as the masterpiece that would follow with Astro Creep, but this album has 2 of Zombie's best songs with Thunder Kiss and Black Sunshine. The back half of the album gets a little lost and pulls it down, but it's still a very good listen overall. Le Sexorcisto gets a 4.5 out of 6 from me.
All right.